Hola estudiantes! Today we are going to be looking at ER and IR verbs. So remember, those are verbs that end in ER or IR. Now before we get started, I want to remind you, conjugating verbs is important. It keeps us from sounding like cavemen, but if we don't know what the verbs mean, we cannot communicate at all. So conjugating verbs keeps us from sounding like a toddler or a caveman, but you really need to make sure that you've memorized the verbs first. So step number 1 is to do that. Memorize those verbs, make some flashcards, use websites. There are tons of resources out there. Also, I want to remind you to stick to just this chapter for now. There are a lot of irregular verbs out there, and so we want to start kind of in a safe space where we know that these are regular verbs. So in Voces, we are in chapter 6. So if you go to your table of contents, make sure you're clicking on chapter 6 and then Lista de Vocabulario. That will take you here. Scroll down just a bit to where it says ER verbs and IR verbs. And again, notice in the ER verb section, all of those end in ER. In the IR verb section, all of those end in IR. So work on memorizing those if you're not there yet. So now let's get into it. So AR verbs, we know how they work. You take off the AR if your verb is hablar. Take off the AR, replace it with O, like hablo, hablas. And that's going to change who you're talking about. So we know hablo means I am speaking. Hablas means you are speaking. Habla can mean you are speaking formally, he is speaking, she is speaking, or it is speaking. If I say hablamos, we are speaking. If I say habláis, that means you all are speaking formally in Spain. And if I say hablan, that would mean they are speaking or you all are speaking. All right, so now ER verbs and IR verbs, they work the exact same way. So if, for example, your verb is beber, again, we need to know first off what it means. So beber is to drink. Then all I need to do is memorize a new set of endings. And if you've memorized the AR endings, the ERs are a really simple add-on. The yo ending is still going to be an O. Instead of AS, like AR verbs, for ER it will be ES. For usted, él, and ella, instead of an A, it will be an E. Are we seeing a pattern here? And then for nosotros, ARs was amos, ERs will be hemos. For vosotros, AR was ice, ER will be ace. For ARs, ellos, ellas, and ustedes was on. For ERs, it will be en. So again, if I want to say we are drinking, we is with nosotros, hemos, so we took off the ER, replaced it with hemos. Bebemos means we drink. If I want to say I drink, take off my ER, replace it with an O. Bebo means I am drinking. If I want to say you are drinking, or maybe I want to ask you, are you drinking enough water? Then I'm going to take off the ER again. You is to, the ending is ES, bebes. So that's all we do for all 6 of those conjugations. He, she, you formal, it's an E. Vosotros, eis. Ustedes or ellos or ellas, replace it with an EN. And then for IR verbs, it is the same thing with just a new set of endings. And if you were seeing the pattern for ERs where you change the A's to E's, you would think that you would just change all of these vowels to I's. Unfortunately for us learning Spanish, that's not the case, but it's actually still pretty simple. For yo, it is still O. For to, it is still es. So it's the same ending so far. For usted, él, and ella, and it, it's still a. Now, nosotros and vosotros. This is where you've really got to pay attention. For nosotros, it is imos with an I. For vosotros, it is is with an I. And then ustedes, ellos, and ellas is the same as ER. So really, the only two IRs where you have to learn something new is for nosotros and vosotros. So let's say you want to conjugate the verb compartir. That's to share. So if I want to say I am sharing, I is yo. Take off the IR, comparto. If I want to say you are sharing, you is tú, compartes. Usted, él, ella, or it, we're going to change that IR to an E. Now nosotros, take off that IR. We are sharing. Again, it's an IR verb, so compartimos. Vosotros, you all are sharing, just in Spain, will be is compartís. And then they are sharing, or you all are sharing, comparten. So that's how regular ER verbs and regular IR verbs work. So let's take a look at a couple or a few examples here. So we speak Spanish. We is our subject. We is nosotros. And then to speak is hablar. So you want to make sure you're noticing that that ends in AR. So we will take off our AR, and then to say we speak for an AR verb, it will be amos. Nosotros hablamos, and then Spanish, español. The next one, they eat pizza. So they is the subject, ellos, or maybe ellas. To eat is comer. So we'll take off our ending. Now again, we want to make sure we're noticing that's an ER verb. So they and an ER is EN, comen. Ellos comen, and then pizza in Spanish is pizza. And then this last one, he lives in Peru. He, we know, is él. And then to live is vivir. Take off the ending. And then it is an IR verb. So he, IR verb. The ending is an E. Él vive en Peru. And that's it. Now let's look at how these translate. There are a few other options here, but basically if it is a sentence, it will always be we and something about eating. As long as it's in the present tense, then you're pretty much covered. So comemos could be we eat, we are eating, or we do eat. And it really just would depend on what translates the best in each situation. A question, comemos. Comemos? That could be, do we eat or are we eating? Again, they're both us, we, and they are both eating in the present tense. And in these cases, we really needed a helping verb because we eat doesn't really make sense by itself in English. So that is how ER and IR verbs work. Again, make sure you memorize what the verbs mean first and then work on how to conjugate them.